Hello. We're going to talk today about performance anxiety and how to release it with EFT and tapping. I'm Robin Bilazarian, and we do have a live demo here today. I want to just give you a little idea of where I'm going. I very much like Gary Craig's tabletop metaphor, and on top of the table is the main issue. Then what you do is you try to find all the legs, aspects, and parts until you knock that down until the tabletop comes down. These slides are being put up at the beginning. You can pause at them if you want to look at them further. So here's an example. So let's say that my demo is worried about singing by herself. She may have, that may be on top of the table. Underneath that, she may worry about making mistakes, being judged, feeling foolish, and I would knock each of those down by themselves. Some questions that you may ask is, what is the main problem? You rate its intensity, 0 to 10, and this goes on top of the table. I'm then going to ask her, what would you like to feel if this is successful? And I may use that as a last optional round, but I don't have to. Then you're looking for the legs of the table so that you can knock them down, and you ask, I prefer to go through the body. Where do you feel this in the body? Rate it and treat the physical part. Then what part of this is hard for you? And I pick one and I rate it and treat it. I go for more legs, and then eventually I get to the first or the worst part. And the order of these questions, 3 through 6, is really up to the practitioner and what you're feeling with the client, okay? Here's a slide. I like this one a lot. You're welcome to pause on this. This tells you how to do EFT, and it's pretty much the protocol of doing it. At the end, we're going to try to do the performance enhancement protocol so that our demo feels confident. And so with that, let me stop with the slides and let me introduce you to Angie, okay? And Angie is quite a special person. And Angie and I live somewhat locally to each other, and we never see each other. We always promise we will. But we do end up going to conferences together. We ride conferences and we talk about this stuff tremendously. We have this big bonding over these conferences, and then I don't see her for a year or two. And that's the way it goes. So Angie, so I want to start with what is on the top of the table? What are you willing to work on today in terms of performance? What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I'd like to be able to sing a solo by myself. My my vocal teacher has told me that she said I have talent and I could do it. She said that there's no reason I shouldn't do a solo, but I just get stage fright and freeze up.
Yeah, it is stage fright. So Angie, the second question that I've asked, and by the way, that goes to the top of the table, her fear, if you will, of doing a solo. The second question is, if we're successful, how would you like to feel about singing a solo? And I am taking notes, folks, because I want to use back her words, okay? She had said she has talent, and her music teacher has told her she's ready, that she can do it. How would you like to feel if we're successful?
I would like to feel confident. I would like to feel like it just flows from me without concern about, how it's being received. Just be open and free. And I would just like to believe in myself.
Okay. We'll get you there today. Okay. Okay. Let me ask you to tune into the anxiety, the fear, the concern that you have about singing solo. And I'm going to ask you to go there for about 5 seconds. And 0 to 10, how upsetting is it to you? How much does it has a grip on you? Where 10 is the most and 0 is not at all.
I would say probably a 10.
Probably a 10. Okay, so it's pretty high. Okay, so when I get a 10, I often ask this question. Angie, as you think about singing solo, where do you feel that in your body? And you can also do a body scan, starting at the top of your head, running through your body all the way down to your toes, and feeling any tightness, pressure, tension, anything whatsoever.
think I feel it in my stomach.
Stomach.
Yes.
And what is that, Angie? 0 to 10?
You mean like the intensity of the feeling?
Exactly. Yeah.
I would say it feels like about a 5.
About a 5. Okay. And how would you describe the tension in your stomach? Is a tightness? Is it a queasiness? Is it a
I was
fluttering?
it kind of like as did the scan, it became a little tight.
Tight. Okay.
Mhm.
So my preference is to go through the body first. And with that, Angie, as best as we can, we're going to take your singing solo and we're going to throw it out to the street. Okay. We're going to pretend that we can do that. Okay. And we're just going to quiet down the body. So Angie, you're going to echo me. You're going to repeat after me. Okay. You can do the tapping. I like the light touch, but you can do whichever one you're comfortable with. Okay. And I'm going to have you say, even though my stomach feels tight,
Even though my stomach feels tight,
I'm a good person,
I'm a good person,
and that's just how I feel.
and that's just how I feel.
So even though my stomach is tight,
Even though my stomach is tight,
I choose to believe
I choose to believe
that I can loosen my stomach up.
that I can loosen my stomach up.
So even though my stomach is tight,
Even though my stomach is tight,
I'm a good person,
I'm a good person,
and I choose to believe that I can do better with this.
and I choose to believe that I can do better with this.
Okay, so now we're just going to go for her feeling in her body. I have a tight stomach.
I have a tight stomach.
My stomach is tight.
My stomach is tight.
My stomach is tight.
My stomach is tight.
I have a tight stomach.
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 My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
This is under the arm, about 4 inches. My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
I use a couple extra points. My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
And a heart hold. My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
And it's customary to go through this 3 times. It's not a requirement. And if your client is laughing after 1, stop. And if your client is crying after 3, keep going. My stomach still feels tight.
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 I have a tight stomach.
I have a tight stomach.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
I have a tight stomach.
I have a tight stomach.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
I have a tight stomach.
I have a tight stomach.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
And my stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
One more time. I have a tight stomach.
I have a tight stomach.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
I have a tight stomach.
I have a tight stomach.
My stomach feels tight.
My stomach feels tight.
I am only thinking about my stomach.
I'm only thinking about my stomach.
I'm only thinking about my stomach.
I'm only thinking about my stomach.
My stomach feels tight.
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 I'm only thinking about my stomach.
I'm only thinking about my stomach.
And my stomach is tight.
And my stomach is tight.
Angie, tune back into that tight stomach of yours and think about it for 5 seconds. And 0 to 10, how tight is your stomach right this second?
Do you want me to think about singing or just the stomach?
Just the tight stomach.
Okay. Not tight.
It's not tight. So we went from a 5 to a 0.
Yeah.
Angie, if you will, now think about the singing. In other words, this was a leg on the table. This was a leg. This was a physical leg of how you felt. Now we're going back to the top of the table and tune back into your concern and fears of singing a solo. And 0 to 10, where are you now with that?
I can't feel it in my stomach.
Can't feel it in your stomach. What level of fear do you have? What level of fear is remaining?
In my body?
No, in your
Just in
heart.
general. Okay. Still high.
What number?
Probably about at 8.
Okay, so that's okay. So we went from a 10 to an 8, and that's a couple of points. So I know Angie can handle this, and this is a demo. So I'm going to ask Angie. What I'm saying is that I know that Angie understands psychology, and so I can ask her this, and she'll understand why. So Angie, as you think about your fear of of singing, what is this similar to? What is this similar to in your past? What is the first or the worst time that you ever tried to do anything like this and either bombed or it was terrible or somebody criticized you or something like that?
I think, well, I've had a few concerts that I've have frozen up, so I think it got worse. Like maybe about 10 years ago, a few concerts that like my vocal teacher has concerts for her students. And when I get so scared, my voice doesn't come out.
It
So
doesn't. No, it
all
doesn't.
my family's
No, no,
looking at me
it's
like,
known. It's
okay.
absolutely known. That probably that vagus nerve comes right up into your throat
Yeah.
and freezes you up. Okay. So what was the first or the worst time that you did that? The one 10 years ago?
I actually think like when I was little, well, middle school, it was something for teen arts where I was thinking that I have to perform something and I didn't get any feedback from it. I didn't get any nothing. So I was left feeling like I bombed it. I believe it was a song that I sang. No, it was a story that I read. I had made up a story because I did creative writing. And I think that like performing in front, doing that, like, yeah, that
Kind
kind
of
of made me
people.
feel it.
So
Yeah.
Angie, if you will, tune back into middle school. By the way, what you're trying to do is get the first of the worst, the younger the better. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Tune back into reading that story and thinking that you bombed it, which you may or may not have done because you didn't get feedback. Okay. You
Hmm.
felt like you bombed it. Okay. And that's that inner critic. We're so hard on ourselves. If we could just get that inner critic to just be quiet, step back, and let our self-compassion rule. But anyway, so tune back into that that story that you read. And 0 to 10, how upsetting is that to you as you think about it now?
A 7.
A 7. Okay. So what I want to point out is middle school, you're somewhere in your early teens. So this story is definitely 20 years or longer. Don't tell me how many years, 20 years or longer. It's still alive. It's still alive. Okay. So let's go after that. So let's go here. Okay. So even though I read this story in middle school,
Even though I read this story in middle school,
and I think I bombed,
and I think I bombed.
I'm a good person.
I'm a good person.
And I choose to believe it was a long time ago.
And I choose to believe it was a long time ago.
So even though I read this story in middle school,
Even though I read this story in middle school,
and I think I bombed,
and I think I bombed,
I actually didn't have feedback.
I actually didn't have feedback.
I choose to believe
I choose to believe
that it was a while ago.
that it was a while ago.
So even though I read this story in middle school
So even though I read this story in middle school
and didn't get feedback,
and didn't get feedback,
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I think I bombed in middle school.
I think I bombed in middle school.
I think I did.
I think I did. I'm doing
I think I bombed in middle school. Yeah, you can do that.
I think I bombed in middle school.
Yeah, I think I bombed in middle school.
I think I bombed in middle school.
And that felt what to you?
And that felt scary and
Scary,
vulnerable.
scary,
Yeah.
embarrassing, right? Scary,
Embarrassing.
scary, embarrassing. Yeah. But I really never got feedback.
But I really never got feedback.
So I really don't know how I did.
I really don't know how I did.
But I thought the worst.
But I thought the worst.
Yeah, I thought the worst.
I thought the worst.
Yeah. So in middle school, I think I bombed.
In middle school, I think I bombed.
I do. I think I bombed.
I think I bombed.
Yeah, I think I bombed.
I think I bombed.
I think I did.
I think I did.
I think I did.
I think I did.
Yeah. Uh, and it still haunts me
And it still haunts me
because it's still a 7.
because it still had a 7.
Yeah. And that's certainly 20 years ago.
And that's certainly 20 years ago.
Yeah. But it still haunts me.
But it still haunts me.
And I think I bombed.
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 I think I bombed in middle school.
I think I bombed in middle school.
I think I did.
I think I did.
But I really never had feedback.
But I really never had feedback.
But I'm sure I bombed.
I'm sure I bombed.
I'm sure I bombed.
I'm sure I bombed.
Even without feedback.
Even without feedback.
But maybe I didn't.
But maybe I didn't.
But maybe I did.
But maybe I did.
And my life was ruined from that.
My life was ruined from that.
And my life wasn't ruined from that.
My life wasn't ruined from that.
But it felt like my life was over.
But it felt like my life was over.
Okay. So that's 3 rounds. So Angie, tune back into that middle school story that you read.
Okay. I just want to say real quick, I felt sadness start to come up, like almost like, am I going to cry? But go ahead.
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So 0 to 10.
The story?
Yeah.
Okay.
How upsetting is that to you right now?
I would say, I don't feel it, maybe a 2.
Maybe a 2. Okay. So Angie, when I get down to a low number, I do eye rolls. Okay. So this is eye movement, not head movement. They're very fast. Okay. So keep your head relatively straight. Okay. And I'll call it for you. We're going to take your eyes from the floor to the ceiling. Okay. So look at the floor for 1. Look straight ahead for 2. Look 3/4 of the way up the wall for 3. Look at where the wall and the ceiling meet for 4. And look at the ceiling for 5. And let go of all that, Angie. Let go of all that. And tune back into your upset that you, when you were reading that story. And 0 to 10.
I feel it.
Don't feel it. Okay, so that's a 0. So now we go back. So that's another leg. It's an old leg. Now we go back to the top of the table. Tune into singing a solo. And go there for 5 seconds. Think about it for 5 seconds is what I mean. And 0 to 10, how concerning is that to you right now?
8.
It 8, so it did not move.
Are you talking about singing a solo, my most recent solo, or in general?
No, in general.
Oh, just in general singing a solo? I was thinking about the time I sang. Okay. I would say a 6.
6, okay. So did you sing a solo? That's new information for me. Did you sing a solo and it was not as well as you thought?
Yes.
And when was that?
In maybe 2014, my teacher had a recital. And then we had another recital, maybe about a year or 2 later, and I froze up and I felt like I bombed it.
Yeah, you froze up. Okay, so go back to that 2014 recital. Did you freeze there?
I didn't freeze as much as that one, but I still wasn't as good as I could have been because of fear.
Because of fear, yeah, yeah. Okay, so go back to that 2014, which is another leg, folks. It's another leg. And 0 to 10, how scary? How much does that still bother you?
I would say 8.
That's an 8. And where do you feel that in your body?
Right here.
You know, I was hoping you'd go to your throat. I was hoping you'd go to your throat. I wasn't going to tell you to go to your throat, but I was hoping you'd go to your throat. And what is with your throat? Is it tight?
It was like a lot of tension right here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's throw your 2014 recital out to the street again. Let's quiet down the tight throat. Okay. So even though I have a tight throat.
Even though I have a tight throat.
I choose to believe that I can do better.
I choose to believe that I can do better.
So even though I had a tight throat.
Even though I had a tight throat.
I'm a good person and it's just how I feel.
I'm a good person and it's just how I feel.
So even though I have a tight throat.
So even though I have a tight throat.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I have a tight throat.
I have a tight throat.
Yeah, I have a tight throat.
I had a tight throat.
My throat is tight.
My throat is really tight.
My throat is really tight. Under the eye.
Throat was tight.
Yep. I am only thinking about my tight throat.
I'm only thinking about my tight throat.
I'm only thinking about my tight throat.
I'm only thinking about my tight throat.
My throat is tight.
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 I have a tight throat.
I have a tight throat.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
I have a tight throat.
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 My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
I have a tight throat.
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 My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
I have a tight throat.
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 I do. I have a tight throat.
I do. I have a tight throat.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
I have a tight throat.
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 My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
Yeah. Yawning and sighing are signs that it's working, and they are the only side effect that we have with these. And so when you see it, it's a good thing. Okay. My throat is tight.
My throat is tight.
I have a tight throat.
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 And I have a tight throat.
I have a tight throat.
Angie, tune back into your tight throat. And 0 to 10, how tight is it right now?
Not 0.
0. I forgot. Was it a 6 or an 8? I did forget.
I think it was a, I can't remember. I think it was an 8.
It was an 8. Okay. All right.
I think 7 or 8. Okay.
So back to the 2014 recital. And how upsetting is that right this second?
Doesn't feel as upsetting as it was.
Okay. Go back to the
Maybe a 3. Maybe a 3.
maybe a 3. Okay. So let's do an eye roll or two on
Okay.
that. By the way, the eye rolls often take you down anywhere from a half a point to 2 points, which is why we do them at the end. They just sort of like smooth things out. Okay. So if you will, Angie, head relatively straight. Okay. This is eye movement, not head movement. And if you will, look at the floor for 1. Look at your computer for 2, straight ahead. Look about 3/4 of the way up the wall for 3. Look at where the wall and the ceiling meet for 4. Look at the ceiling for 5. And let go of all that. And tune back into that 2014 recital. 0 to 10.
0.
0.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to the top of the table, if you will. I know. Back to
Okay.
the top of the table.
Okay.
And your fear of doing a solo in general.
Feels a lot different. That's weird.
I know it is.
Like, EFT was like when you do it, like,
I know it's so weird.
let me see. I'm imagining if my teacher said, Angela, go out and sing this song. I don't feel like I'm scared now. Maybe a 3.
Maybe a 3. So imagine someone says, Angie, let's go sing a song. Okay. Let's do an eye roll on that. Okay. Head relatively straight. Look at the floor for 1. Look straight ahead for 2. Look where the about 3/4 of the way up the wall for 3. Look at where the wall and the ceiling meet for 4. And look at the ceiling for 5. And someone says to you, hey, Angie, let's go sing a song.
I feel like I would do it.
You feel like you would do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so I'm going to move on. Okay. In other words, what we hopefully did is we had her at the tabletop, her fear of doing a solo, and then we went down these legs. One was a physical leg of her tight stomach. Later, we had another physical leg of a tight throat. We went to a couple of issues. We went to middle school. We went to a 2014 recital. And now she says she thinks she can do it. So I'm going to ask her, Angie, how confident are you can do it? And I'm going to ask you 0 to 100%. Okay. 100% is ask me to do it tonight. Okay. And 0% is I'll never do it.
I feel pretty confident. I feel like about maybe 90%.
90%. Okay. So in the future performance protocol, and we do have a slide on that if you want to go back and look at it. We're going to just say the positives. And I've got some of the positives from Angie, but I'm going to add some too. Okay. Angie, we're going to hold under the eye for about 5 breaths. And we're just going to say positives. And Angie can repeat them, but she doesn't have to. She can add to them. Okay. So we're just going to say positives. And the positives are, I can do this. The teacher said I can do this. I do feel confident. I feel like I have a flow. I want to feel open and free and believe in myself. Okay. Collarbone, if you will. Okay. I have talent. I know I have talent. The teacher said I can do this. I feel confident. I want to have a flow without any concern. I want to feel open and free. And I want to believe in myself. Okay. Under the arm, Angie, it's about 4 inches below the armpit. Let me just try and get it a little bit on screen. Okay. Um, I have talent. The teacher said I can do it. I feel confident. I want to have a flow without concern. I want to feel open and free and believe in myself. Okay. One more time. I want to do this. I want to do this. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I have talent. The teacher says I can do it. I want to feel confident and I want to flow without concern. I want to feel open and free and believe in myself. Collarbone. I do have talent. I do. People have been telling me I've had talent for all my life. The teacher said I can do it. I want to feel confident. I do feel confident. I want to flow without concern. I want to be open and free and believe in myself. Under the arm. Okay, both sides, about 4 inches below the armpit. I have talent. I've been told I've had talent forever and ever. The teacher said I can do it. I want to feel confident. I want to flow without concern. I want to be open and free, and I want to believe in myself. And so, Angie, tune back into your confidence that if someone said to you tonight, Angie, we need you to do a song, okay? Where are you, 0 to 100%?
I definitely would do it. I think I 100% would do it.
100% will do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Angie, can you just tell people who are watching this, okay, what what anything that shifted in you, even the physical, anything that shifted
Yeah.
you doing that?
Well, I felt a surge of energy go through me, and it's almost like a surge of joy. And I felt like happy, and almost like a portal opened up.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of warm, and it was like, I
Yeah.
don't know if you caught me smiling, but I was like,
Yeah, yeah. I know. I know. It's
yeah,
pretty good. It's pretty good.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
That was
right.
great.
I thank you for your time. I thank you for your willingness to do this and enjoy singing and enlighten the world with your voice and the joy that you have singing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Now, wait a minute. I want to